He,
Oh my God. Yeah, Tanner.
We'll call the meeting of the Board of Education to order. I would ask you to join us in the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everyone. It is such a pleasure to walk in and see all of these bright faces this evening. So I can't wait to hear about your stories. Before we get started, I'm going to ask Sue if she would do roll call of the board, please.
Brian Sapanek.
here, present.
Jack Sayer.
Present.
Jessica Lenave.
Present.
Carrie Germain.
Present.
Chuck Melkey.
Here.
Alyssa Parks.
Present.
Alyssa Bouchard.
Present.
All right, all members accounted for. Next on our agenda, we have an opportunity for public comment. If you would like to address the board, please step to the podium, state your name, and try to keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. This is specific items that are on our agenda this evening. If you would like to comment later in the meeting, there's also an opportunity. Does anyone wanted to address the board? Okay. All right, moving on, we now have a consent agenda that includes the meeting minutes, an agenda of this meeting, some retirements and resignations, and the payment of bills, and I would ask for a motion for approval.
Support.
Ryan and Alyssa. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, Sue, could you do roll call, please?
Chuck Melkey.
Yes.
Carrie Germain.
Yes.
Alyssa Parks.
Yes.
Alyssa Bouchard.
Yes.
Jessica Lenave.
Yes.
Jack Sayer.
Yes.
Brian Sapanek.
Yes.
7 yes.
Thank you, ma'am. Motion passes. Now we're going to turn it over to Mr. Heatherton for our superintendent report.
Thank you very much. We do have a lot going on. It is November already. October went by pretty fast. And if you've been following our social media, we've had a lot of celebrations lately. One of those celebrations was one of our high school students, Sophia Johnson, was selected out of hundreds of students to go and speak at the Gear Up to Lead conference. It was a conference on student leadership held at Mott Community College, and it had close to 1,000 students there. Our friend, Deputy Superintendent, Mr. Kitchen, was the MC of the event, and it is an event that our former Assistant Superintendent, Adam Hartley, has put on, talking about growth mindset, responsibility, empathy, and just student leadership in general. So we are proud of Sophia for being selected and for talking in front of all those students. Mr. Fuller's class recently made the news. I don't know if you saw that one, but his construction trades class did build a wheelchair ramp for one of our community members. The project was actually initiated by one of our own teachers, Miss Daylin Jones, who is a teacher at our middle school, and they put a beautiful ramp together and got a lot of kudos for that. So if you haven't had a chance to see that article, take a look at that one. And this morning, Deke Elementary held their Veterans Breakfast. They had over 100 veterans coming in and eat with the kids. We had madrigals there. We had Fletcher Martin, one of our 8th graders, play the accordion. And we had Deke students who sang to the veterans. So a great event, and thank you to all the veterans for your service. This week, parent-teacher conferences for our middle school and high school every day, Monday through Thursday, which means no school this Friday, K-12. No school, children, this Friday. Our high school production of Clue is going to be happening November 18th, 19th, and 20th. Tickets at the door, or you can go online and reserve tickets. It looks to be a fantastic production. Hope to see you out at Clue. And we are in our third week of the Culture and Climate Survey. So if you have not had a chance to take that survey, please do so. It is for middle school and high school students, staff, parents, community members. We are using a third-party educational research company, Hanover Educational Research. So we're excited to see what we're doing well in terms of climate and culture. We're excited to see what we can grow on, and most importantly, we're excited to have a baseline that we continue to look back at and look forward as we try to make progress on our strategic plan and other endeavors that we have set for ourselves in Swartz Creek. Couple more. December 8th through the 10th, this is for board members, MASB is holding its CBA weekend. You can take CBA 101, which is the fundamentals of board service. Highly encouraged for all board members. And if you complete CBA 102 through 109, you will get level 1 certification on being a board member. So if you have any questions, please see Sue, but we are excited to have that opportunity for you to learn and grow as a board member. And finally, last night was our midterm elections. The uncertified results with all precincts currently reporting for the full term, Andrea Fick, Kim Winter, and Chuck Melke, and for the 2-year term, Holly Jarvis. We would just like to thank all 8 people who ran and showed interest in our district. We're very proud of the fact that people want to serve and do good things for our kids. That's it.
Thanks, Rod. Any questions for Rod? I also want to congratulate the folks that came out and ran for office, even if they weren't successful this time. We, as a board, appreciate the interest from the community, and we hope that the folks that maybe weren't successful this time will stay active in some way in the school district, including maybe running for the board again in the future. I also want to thank the parents of those students that built the ramp, because you've instilled in your children incredible values. And so hopefully we can have them here someday so we can thank them in person. But that was a great effort by Mrs. Jones to take the initiative to raise the funds to make sure that there was somebody who could actually construct the ramp. And for Mr. Fuller, he's always great, as is his very talented student group. So thanks again for that. And for that, I think we're going to turn it over to Mr. Tanner. Thanks for joining us tonight, sir.
Well, that's not a problem. I've got a great list of stuff for you tonight. So just starting off in the general category, during the week leading up to Halloween and Halloween Day herself, all buildings in our district were encouraging their students to participate in Halloween-themed spirit days and parties. A few highlights in particular were the annual Halloween classroom parties held for our elementary kiddos on the half-day of school Friday, as well as annual permission to wear costumes at the middle and high schools on Halloween Day. Narrowing down to the high school, the SCCS Drama Club is going to be gearing up for their production of Clue on stage. The cast and crew have been working hard for the past few months to bring the show to life and truly immerse the audience in the world of this classic board game. The show will be taking place next weekend on November 18th, 19th, and 20th. As Mr. Heatherton said, the high school construction classes have been working on a project to help a family in need in our community. The classes have been working together on building a handicap ramp for the fiance of Heather, who is one of our building aides at the middle school. Heather's fiance is undergoing surgery to amputate his remaining leg, and the ramp is built as a surprise for him once he gets back home from the hospital. The Swartz Creek Band held their annual Dragon Spectacular last Wednesday to close out the marching season. The band played their entire marching program, as well as being joined for the color guard for one last hurrah of the 2022 season. The Swartz Creek Meet the Choirs concert also took place last week on Thursday, November 4th. The concert is traditionally to introduce each choir of the year's season to the community. Each choir performed a handful of songs with varying styles, showcasing the different skill sets the choirs possess. And ending it off for high school, sophomore Sophia Johnson was chosen as the student speaker for the Gear Up to Lead conference at Mott Community College, giving a presentation on leadership for an audience of close to 1,000 people. At our middle school, some of our middle school science students have gotten the opportunity to check out the new STEAM wing built over the summer. Recently, the middle school science department has begun to utilize the space to conduct hands-on experience as well as activities usually impossible in a normal classroom environment. So it's really good to see that new area of the school starting to come into use and bringing really, really good learning experiences to those those middle schoolers. Down on elementary, we have a lot here. Deke Elementary, as Mr. Heatherton said, held a Veterans Breakfast today in the cafeteria to thank and celebrate those and their families who have served in our country. Students were encouraged to invite any relatives that they had served in, excuse me, students has encouraged to invite any relatives they had who had served in the breakfast. The elementary school choir performed a selection of songs at the event along with the Swartz Creek Madrigals, who were invited to sing the national anthem to open the event. At Cyrene today, Major John Turnbull of the U.S. military surprised his niece Charlotte in Mrs. Bohm's second grade class. Now, when Major John Turnbull was in Syria, he was hit by a bomb and given a 0% chance of survival, yet against all odds, he is still with us here today. So he wanted to come in and talk with the students to give some of his experiences and overall give the class a very unique and personal experience of what it's like to be in the armed forces. Cyrene would also like to reach out and express the most gratitude possible for Major Turnbull's visit and service in the military. Cyrene and Deke are going to be having a family dinner night at November 15th at Burrito Bros to help raise funds for the PTO, and the PTO funds raised at those events are going to come back to directly benefit the students. The Gaines Socktober Drive, which was mentioned at the last meeting, turned out to be a huge success, bringing over 150 pairs of socks that are going to be distributed to local families in need. At Gaines, the 4th and 5th grade students recently elected new student council members for the 22-23 school year. The students elected were Mason, Grace, Harper, Allison, Paige, Sean, Andrew, and I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing this right, but I believe Kylie. The group is ready to roll and have already put together their first project, which is going to be a holiday food drive to collect non-perishable food items that will be donated to the Canes Community Council for distribution this holiday season to families in need. And last but not least, Cyrene Elementary is going to be hosting a family wellness night on Tuesday, November 29th. Families will eat dinner together and attend sessions on a variety of activities designed to help them learn about physical, mental, and emotional health. Sessions are meant to be interactive and done together as a family. Some of the events they're going to be holding will be mindful coloring, comic yoga, and family board games to help strengthen that bond between the school, the family, and their students. And that's all I've got for this report.
Wow. That was great. Thank you. Any questions for Tanner?
So I don't know if others on the board have, but I tried my best to fill out the climate and culture survey. I had to pull my son Zane, who some of you might know, into the room with me to fill it out because I couldn't fill it out because his experience at the high school. So how do we, and I guess I would encourage everyone here to fill out that survey, because even though it might be long, there are important questions that only you all who are students and parents of students that can give feedback. So I guess my question for Tanner is there any ideas? I don't want to put this all on you, Tanner. I guess I just want to encourage to have more students respond to that survey. So any way we can get the word out or encourage, I just want to, I guess, to either ask or encourage that.
So some ways that would definitely be encouraged to fill that out is I plan on tonight putting out on the Swartz Creek Student Board Instagram page, I'm going to put a notice about how students should fill that out because we greatly appreciate the feedback, and it will greatly improve the climate of Swartz Creek once we're able to get those responses organized. We're going to be able to look at them, figure out what needs to be done to create just the climate of Swartz Creek High School, make it so much better, improve it for everyone, as well as just putting out online social media posts about it. I feel like that would be the best way to spread the word. I definitely would encourage everyone who is here tonight, because we have a lot of students in the audience tonight, I would encourage everyone to go home and fill that out, because every single response we get, every individual response does matter, it does count. We want to have as many opinions and as many viewpoints as possible with this survey. That way we can be as inclusive as possible for everyone and make just the school a better place for everyone. So I would encourage you to go home, fill out that survey, and spread the word about it so that we can make this place as best as possible for all the students of Swartz Creek High School.
And the way those surveys work, the more responses you get, the more representative the sample, what's called the sample is, so you can better trust the results. So that's why it's really important to maybe, I think it would be 5 minutes or less. That was I had to call Zane in and ask him questions, so it took me longer because I didn't know what he thought about some of these things. So I just encourage everyone to take a look at that. It talks about school safety, it talks about other key things related to climate. So if decisions are going to be based off that, we want to get as high of response as possible.
Oh, absolutely. And the more responses we can get, the better, because like you were saying, the better sample size, you get an idea of what issues could be present with more of a percentage of the student body. You're able to make those inclined decisions to just pretty much make everything as smooth sailing as possible for the rest of this year. And it's a great thing to have this survey because it truly gives another way for students in the school to have a voice over what's going on. It brings up potential issues. We can figure out what truly needs to be done and just make the school as best as possible we can for all students.
Rod, will Michelle be promoting this in the next day or two?
Yeah, she has been promoting it. I think it's pinned on her Facebook and Twitter from the Swartz Creek Schools account. I sent a reminder to staff today and sent a message out to the principals. Probably do one more mass email on Monday because the window will close next week.
Okay. And last, I want to thank ITC students. Tanner, I know you brought it up last month about the Meet the Candidate night that was held at the PAC. It was very well done, very professional, and I think the feedback that the folks that participated had was that it was comfortable, it was very well done. So if you could pass that along to the students as well, that would be really great.
Yeah, I will absolutely pass that on to all the ITC students who were there helping the event, as well as Mr. Gillette, so that he can get the word out to the rest of the students about what the phenomenal job they did.
Thank you. All right, moving on, we have an informational item that's in your packet on non-certified staff resignation. And then starting with the board subcommittee reports, we had this week our academic achievement meeting, last week on the 1st. It was academic achievement. Mr. Kitchen provided us with an overview of the district MTSS team meeting that was held in mid-October, and he shared with that group the strategic plan. They talked about good questioning skills for educators to increase critical thinking skills and opportunities for students. And that wasn't just for upper level students. Those are also for elementary level. So you're looking at critical thinking development versus just recall of facts. The committee discussed the importance of still building relationships between teachers and students as critical thinking is continuing to develop. The MTSS team at their meeting also talked about district progress in trauma-informed care, and they reviewed social emotional learning data meeting outcomes by building. Next on our agenda was Why Do We Exist? This is a book that the administrators are studying that focuses on organizational health. So it's not just schools, but organizations in general, called The Advantage by Patrick Lencioni. Jim shared an excerpt from the book with the committee, and he led us through an exercise where we actually had to think for a little bit. And we looked at 6 critical questions for organizational leaders as you're looking at how to find clarity and alignment across your leaders. The committee actually reviewed those questions, answered them, and we shared our responses with the group. And the questions that we answered were, why do we exist? Why do we behave, or how do we behave? What do we do? How will we succeed? What is most important right now? And who must do what? So that was really an interesting exercise, and thank you, Jim, for bringing us that information. Last on our agenda was the Hanover Research Partnership, the Climate and Culture Survey that we just talked about, and Rod gave us overviews of the current relationship with Hanover Research and what it might look like going forward. And as has been mentioned, we would encourage everyone, our board members, our community, our staff, our teachers, our students, everyone, whether you have students in the district or not, to respond to the link that are available on our district website. It's the pop-up when you go to the district website. You should be able to get there right away. And again, on social media. That was all we had. There was no public comment, and our next meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, November 22nd, just before Thanksgiving. Are there any questions? No? All right. let's move to Jack for policy.
Yes. So, policy committee was November 1st. It was a Tuesday. It was later in the day after Carrie and academic achievement. Present was myself, Brian Spanik, Chuck Melke, Rod Heatherton, Michelle Dexter, Jim Kitchen, and Kevin Claren. Order was called at 5:59 p.m., and much as in the last bunch of different policy committees we've been having, we just were reviewing an update packet from Troon. We're still going over the July 22 update packet from Troon. We got through 2405 to 3118 in our last meeting. This one, we got through 3301 to 4201 AG. Hopefully in our next meeting, we're trying to get through 5711. That would put us all the way up to, I believe that would actually catch us up because we haven't gotten a November packet from Troon yet. We are expecting one, but we haven't gotten one. Next is we are bringing to the board tonight the packet of updates for a first read for the rest of the board. There are no actual decisions made in it yet, not fully, but you have your packets to look over. So that way, if you guys have any questions, you can direct them to me, Rod, Jim, and otherwise, there was no public comment, there was no other committee comment, and we adjourned at exactly 7 p.m. Any questions?
None? Thanks, Jack. Appreciate it as always. All right, next, let's move on to finance. And then did we have building operations?
Yes.
Too? Okay. Are you going to start?
No.
Okay.
Finance was on time.
Okay.
So we started. We started at 2:08, but that's up to her. She's gonna do that. I don't have a packet in here. I was bad on my side. I got it.
Just kidding. Okay, the meeting was called by myself on Monday, October 31st. In attendance was myself, Chuck Melke, Alyssa Parks, Brian Spanik, Rod Heatherton, Chris Gray, Jim Kitchen, and R.C. Hunt. Our cash agenda item, cash and investment summary as of 9:30 is the general fund is $5,567,355.75. Our sinking fund is $2,400,565.38. Our food service account is at $652,404.94. Our student activity fund is at $270,750.57. Our debt service is $2,308,587.87. Our 2018 bond capital project fund is at $6,205,566.26, leaving our total cash and investments at $17,405,230.77. Our check register review for the month of for September was not reviewed there. We did receive the information and reviewed it outside of the meeting with no issues. As far as bids and quotes go, we had multiple POs. The first one is AD 2042 for $14,653.04 for a high school classroom library. And additionally, AD 2038, $6,813.13 for Gaines 4th and 5th grades classroom libraries. TE 2029 for $16,919.68 for Microsoft Office annual license for the Swartz Creek District. FS 2013 for $12,233.50 for the middle school warmer and display units in the for food service. POMN 2145 for $14,300 for Mary Crapo asbestos monitoring. POMN 2144 for $7,685 for interior painting of the 400 wing at the, that's at the high school. Sorry. I just want to make sure because I didn't know that. And AD 2044 and 45 and MS 21, 88, 89, and 90 totaling $17,636 for the middle school STEAM equipment. There were multiple items in those POs. We discussed new grant applications, the first one being CNP, school breakfast expansion. The deadline for that grant is November 17th. That can be used for signage and equipment. Oh, I don't know what that meant there. I'm sorry. Paddock should not be in there. We're discussing purchasing iPads for breakfast sales. And then robotics, that's one of the items, not the only item that could be potentially used for that, speeding up the lines for breakfast service. Robotics 99H, the Nexus grant application, that's a stipend and materials. That had a deadline for submission of October 31st, and that grant is available at $10,500. We discussed the bus sale and purchase recommendation, and our discussion was that we know that we need 2 buses that need to be sold in the 22-23 school year on GovDeals auction site. We're putting in a minimum bid of $4,500 each. At least 2 buses will need to be purchased in the 23-24 school year based on the Transportation Department's recommendation and analysis using the school bus fleet replacement analysis and vehicle summary by odometer. At least 2 buses with a purchase price of $254,780 from MSBO, the bus purchase program. Because of the number of buses that will need to be replaced in the next few years, it was discussed to analyze purchasing 3 buses. And then lastly, our bid threshold was increased by the Treasury to $28,048 for the 22-23 school year. There were no public comments and no committee comments. And then our meeting transitioned to the Operations Committee at 3:05.
Thanks, Jessica. Any questions for Jessica?
Yes.
Although I was there.
Yeah.
In afterthought, I did some research on bus sales, and it seemed like $4,500 was kind of low. So I just think we should reconsider that in the future. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, Carrie. I stated that I was at the meeting, but we agreed on the $4,500, but I went back and did some research on it. It seems like they're going for a little bit more money with the cost of everything. I just think we need to review those minimum bids.
Do you have a recommendation?
Yeah, $6,500. A lot of people buy those buses just for the engines. We've talked about the frames being wore out. And if we put it on for 30 days at $6,500, and if we don't get it, we can always lower the bid if we have a problem. So we're keeping the bus for an extra 30 days possibly. But if we can get a little bit more money, because the buses have increased $30,000, our cost for a new bus. So we went from about $25,000. So we went from about 104, 98, depending on the options, now up to about 124 to 130, depending on the options. So everything's going up, and they're not giving us a break, so, but it's just a suggestion.
That's not a bad idea.
It's just a suggestion we should do.
Absolutely.
So, I don't know, whatever Rod thinks and RC at the end. Brian, I'm sorry. It was about $6,000 to $8,000, depending on the area of the country, but I still think we can get every bit of $6,500. Now, I might bid $6,500 and resell for $8,500. I can't do that, being a board member. But I mean, it seems awful cheap for what the price of vehicles are out there. And they were going for more than $4,500. Now, they might have been in better shape, I don't know, but according to RC, we have one of the highest standards of maintenance records, if I'm not mistaken, Ron. He said that several times. And he keeps the buses up to date. The problem with the buses is that the frames start rusting out. And it's not the motor, the transmission, the rear end, the tires, it's the other things. So hence my bus garage someday in the future, so they don't rust. Great.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, that's all I had.
Thanks, Chuck.
It's more as a comment, just for the board to consider, for us to possibly reevaluate that for some of our equipment that we sell. Thank you.
And Jessica, did you have any financial items that you wanted to recommend for approval?
Or later?
Later, or no, usually you make a recommendation if there's anything that's relevant.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, I was waiting if there were any other comments. Yes, I would like to move that you accept my report as submitted.
So moved.
Support.
Thank you.
Okay, any comments or questions? Hearing none, Sue, could you do roll call, please?
Jack Sayer,
Yes.
Jessica Lenave,
Yes.
Carrie Germain.
Yes.
Chuck Melkey.
Yes.
Brian Sapanic,
Yes.
Alyssa Parks.
Yes.
Alyssa Bouchard.
Yes.
All right, motion passes. Thank you. And now, last but not least, Chuck with Building and Operations.
Yes, a lot going on. We started at 3:05 PM. Present was Jim Kitchen, myself, Jessica, Brian, Chris, RC, and Rod. And Alyssa. That's what happens when you don't take accurate notes and you leave them on your desk. I'm a bad student. It's not a good example. So with that being said, the first order of business was a stop finder for transportation loss for the launch for the buses. So effective November 21st, 2022, all the parents in the district will be able to keep accurate track of their students, their children, to and from the buses. So what it does is when the child gets on the bus or the student gets on the bus, it'll give them a time that they're on the bus. It'll give the bus number, the date, the bus driver. When the bus nears their house, it's more of a little bit of a peripheral thing. It's not exactly when they make the stop. It'll tell them the bus has made that stop, and it'll give the time. And if there's a problem with not being able to find the student, they can either text, email, Facebook, call, and there's a few others. I don't know. Was there Twitter on there, Rod? I don't know if Twitter was on there or not. Yeah, there were several social media things that they could go to, so that'll help the parents on that. And that's going to be instituted on the 21st, and there's no extra cost to the district except for the initial cost of about $15,000 to install the program. And the monthly operating, though, I believe was a little bit less than our current monthly operating, and this is much more efficient for the board and for the safety of the students. And our staff, correct. Next thing, thank you. Mary Crapo update. The asbestos has been removed. All they were waiting on now is, and all the chimney Swiss left. And I'll talk about that later. It's not on our agenda. But they are waiting on consumers and to unhook the power, and then they're going to start demolition of the building. They had all their equipment set up on Monday, so they're just waiting on consumers' power. I forgot to ask RC today in our bond committee meeting where we were at on that, so, but that's coming. Okay, well, that's our answer. I forgot that. Thank you, Rod. The bus garage parking lot was cracked, filled, sealed, and repaired at a cost of about $9,000. And that's a long-term goal for strategic planning. The lot's falling apart, so we got to figure out where we're going to come up with the money to fix that. The dry cooler update from Walgast for the middle school. We've set out an RFP for bids to replace that, and we're going to withhold money for the one that went bad, and then we'll see what happens if they're going to rebid it to fix it, because there's some dispute on who ruined the dry cooler unit. Dragon sign was installed at the high school. That was a cost of about $5,900, a new neon sign. We winterized the football stadium. And we talked about the buses, if we should buy 3 instead of 2, as Jessica said, because the cost is going to keep going up. And I think we have a long-term goal of we need 10 buses in the next 3 years. So there was 2 for this year, or next year, and I believe 5 or 6 for the following year, and then 2 or 3 the following year after that. So we're trying to figure out how to defray our costs and maybe spread it out, but that'll have to be done in strategic planning here very soon and figure out what the board's wishes are, reallocate money in budget. We didn't have any public comment, and we did talk about one other thing, and that was the chimney Swiss. So when they're demolishing or destroying the building, the chimney Swiss had to leave. They were told to vacate by November 1st, I believe. And luckily they all left. Problem is I got a lot of calls from the public, and they know I'm an animal lover, and they said, I'm going to kill the chimney Swiss next year. So they said they wouldn't come back to roost in their normal home. And there's an issue where they come back to wherever they laid their eggs. So with Rod and Jim's help, we called Mr. Fuller, as you said, Carrie, and he's going to build us some temporary chimneys so the birds can come back. So I think that's a great project for the kids. It's a great project for the Mr. Fuller's department, and a great project for the district. So that was it on the building report.
Thanks, Chuck.
Yep.
Any questions for Chuck?
We closed at 4.
Chuck, could you define what these chimney Swisses are? I don't think a lot of people would know. I mean, originally, I didn't know what they were until you said birds.
Listen, I'm 62, you can't put me back in biology class. But it's a unique bird that roosts only in vertical settings. And chimneys are where they roost. And there's I guess a dominant couple that take over and all the rest follow it. And then they go to that chimney or other chimneys in the nearby area. And we definitely don't want any complaints from the public where they're going to start roosting in their chimneys.
How many do we think we have in the chimney?
I think it was 1,500 to 2,000, Rob. Was that the number? I mean,
That's a
we
lot.
all thought they were bats for all these years driving by Mary Crapo, and at nighttime you'd see them fly out, and then they look like bats. They're erratic behavior, and I did some research on it. And they're very interesting birds. They're very pretty birds. I'm a dog and cat guy, but at the end of the day, birds, we're not going to mess with the birds. So we kind of eliminated their home, and with the help of the students and that department, I think it worked out for the good. It'll be a good project for the community, good project for the kids, good project for that department, and hopefully everybody's happy, including the chimney Swifts.
Thank you, Chuck.
Thank you.
And Chuck,
You guys didn't know I had a soft side. They were making me cry in the car when they were talking to me about it the other day, so I'm like, I got to do something.
well, thanks for letting us see that soft side, Chuck.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we do
Enjoy it while you
appreciate you spearheading everything that's being done at Mary Crapo and for your sensitivity to the chimney swifts.
Yeah,
So thank you.
yeah, that's okay.
All right.
I don't know what they're going to get me on next month. That's the problem. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thanks for that. Let's move on now to our board discussion items, beginning with the presentation from our athletic director, Rod.
Yes, I would like to welcome Miss Adrian Trebetowski up to the mic, and she is going to give us her athletic update for the fall of 2022 and maybe say something about all these students in red t-shirts.
Absolutely. Thank you for having us, first of all. I just kind of wanted to start with what we've been working on for the past year as far as athletics goes. I put together some data. I know Chuck loves numbers, so this is all for you. And so we, participation-wise, for fall, we're standing pretty steady as far as that goes. I know that last year we talked about a percentage of athletes participating, so I included that in our slide this year. We're at about 21% of our student body is participating. That's just in fall athletics. So this is a kind of a 3-year longitudinal take on the fall sports. I'd like to, without extending my time too much next year, bring all 3 seasons data so we can look a little bit more in depth at all of that. But just a couple of highlights from last year. Obviously, with football, we were division co-champs. We took 2 wrestlers to the state MHSAA state individual wrestling tournament. We also were girls lacrosse Flint Metro League co-champs, and then boys track and field division champs. So far this year, we've had a very exciting school year starting this fall. Again, football division co-champs. We made the playoffs 4 out of the last 5 years. Our girls golf team has had qualified for a state tournament the last 2 years in a row, and our first ever as long as we've been in the Metro League, so we're going back to about 2006. We've had the first ever overall medalist for the Flint Metro League for golf. So it's very exciting, and she's returning. She's a junior, so very exciting season for them and in shape for next year as well. And then our swim team broke a school record, and then they rebroke their same school record last weekend, which is very exciting as well. And we qualified for MISCA, which is a invitational tournament. Or invitational meet in Grand Rapids. And so that's the first time in quite a few years that we've ever had teams, girls history, thank you, that we've ever had any athletes qualify for the MISCA event as well. So I also included middle school statistics on there as well. There we go. And participation rate, I wanted you to see this too. We have an increase in student athletes this year, which is very exciting, as well as 26% of our student body in the middle school are participating in athletics. That was really exciting to me because I want to see those trends continue into the high school and what that's going to look like. We know, and we've been doing a ton of work with our coaches and coaching staff, that it really, the middle school coaches are setting the foundation of their athletic experience. So that's really exciting that we have 26% of that, our kids participating. Football, I have a little asterisk up there that was just to remind me that our 8th grade team actually went undefeated this year. So that was very exciting for our middle school football program as well. A little bit of our focus this year, we, as a coaching staff, we really wanted increased accountability. And so as a coaching staff, we sat down this spring, we looked at all of our data from the last year, and we decided that we really wanted our focus, our mission, our boots on the ground every single day. What we were focused on is we want our athletes to have a we is greater than me mentality. So we kind of copied, U of M, friends know that the team quote and saying. So we used that this year, and we made the team bracelets. So these two athletes are actually holding up their team bracelets. The young man in the middle was actually the first recipient of that bracelet. I got a call from athletic director from a different school. He had ended up in a sea of the other team after a handshake line. And instead of, after a win, instead of being a jerk and gloating or anything else, he was complimenting them, telling them how much they had improved, and just, a class act. So I awarded him with the first team bracelet because he made really good choices in that moment in time. And then the young woman on the right is a volleyball player. She actually stopped in a drill and helped a teammate that was really struggling with the concept of the drill. So it was just nice to see our kids really kind of going above and beyond for each other and for their team. And that was really the whole point of our work and what we wanted to accomplish this year. The other thing that we've done is we had our community day. This was last spring, our first ever open house, and we had incorporated our goal was to incorporate our signing day at the same time. We got rained out on the original date, but then we came back and did our community event. And you can see we had cheerleaders up there painting faces. We had bounce houses and everything else. Next year, I would hope, or this year, this spring, I would hope that, we can extend this up to the high school and do some more tours, allow the public to actually come into the facility and see the gymnasium, the new locker rooms, and all of that kind of stuff is shaping up nicely. It seems like every day we come in and there's something else that's new and fun and exciting there, and we're ready for the construction to be done. So. We also this year implemented player-parent meetings. So this was an opportunity for our community, athletes and parents, to come in and listen to expectations before the season even starts. So it's nice that we go and we try out for a team, but then we sometimes would find out later, holy cow, this is a bigger commitment than what I had originally anticipated. And that really kind of throws off the vibe, or maybe you took off a position for somebody that, would have made the team that didn't make the team, So we started this year, and we really laid out our expectations, our athlete expectations, our spectator expectations. And I'd like to say so far, and I don't want to jinx myself, but we probably had the best fall as far as that goes, as far as spectator expectations and just people in the stands and, being polite, being courteous. We talk about officials in there and how important they are to our athletics. And so I think it was a great way for the community to really kind of hear this information up front. The other benefit is that they got to meet the coach of their team or their program. So we had breakout sessions after our general assembly, and then they got to meet the coaches. They got to talk about the tryout practice, ask any questions that they wanted to, and then get everything kind of done ahead of time versus trying to scramble afterwards and get information out. So those have been very beneficial as well. We've also created a leadership group. So I call them SCLC. That is, and some of these people in the audience today are a part of that as well. But LCLC is Swartz Creek Leadership Council. And in our Flint Metro League Summit that we host, we had 10 athletes that we brought that were all sophomores. So we're trying to dig down as a league and really start having those leadership conversations earlier. And we host the summit every single year. So we had 10 Swartz Creek sophomores that attended. And then also every other year, the MHSAA puts on a Women in Sports Leadership Summit. And it's mostly all, about 95% females that were there. There was a few male coaches that coach female sports that were in attendance as well. But it was an amazing 2 days of lecture and guest speakers and breakout sessions and just a ton of information for our young women to take back to their teams and programs. So we've actually formed a group that meets monthly during our advisory period in the high school. And we're just talking about how we can continue those. We're going to dig into a book study. I know that they're really super excited about that, but we're going to dig into a book study, and I've heard really good things about the book. I know that our neighbors to the south, some of them have started that as well, and I'm just excited that we have a topic to talk about, and we're going to bring all these kids together every single month and talk about leadership and how we can grow that sphere of influence. So. And last but not least, and that's why all of these guys are here, this is the first time that we've really done a really good job of celebrating our scholar athletes. And fun fact is 18% of our fall athletes are scholar athletes, so I thought that was a pretty impressive number. Their overall grade point average of the 39 fall athletes is a 3.87. And our athletic boosters was gracious enough to purchase t-shirts so those kids can be recognized. So I have a few in attendance. You guys want to stand up? Few in attendance today. We've got some representative from volleyball, cross country, football, cross country, volleyball, and some swim and football guys over here. So I was excited that they could come, and I know that they are very appreciative of all of your recognition and awesome words and support for all of our athletes and all of our students. I have to wait for questions, don't I?
Well, thank you very much, and congratulations to all of you and your peers. We know that that takes a lot of work to balance your athletic endeavors and your academic endeavors. So congratulations to all of you, and to the parents. I know you're behind them as well. So any questions for Adrian before we go on?
Yeah, Adrian, when we have the parents meet, for that initial meetings, what's the, what would you say the success rate is at? Is there a lot of parents that show up, or some kids come by themselves even if their parents aren't there, or how does that work?
I'd say...
And you got working parents, sometimes they can't juggle their schedule and...
Yeah, everybody knows that scheduling with athletics, it's a dream job to have. There always seems to be something that is conflicting every single event. But I'd say in our fall meetings, we probably had about 200 to 250. In our winter meeting, we probably had about 100 to 150. But some of those parents were overlapping. If they had a multi-sport athlete, I had told the high school parents that if they had already attended my presentation, that they could just come for the breakouts and the information as well. So we sent out that message via final forms. But I imagine the spring is probably even going to be less. But it's my goal to actually get some different topics in there. We've even talked about doing a student breakout session for the athletes, instead of them sitting there for 45 minutes and listening to everything, maybe do a round table with some of our leaders and stuff like that. So we're trying to come up with some new ideas that will make people want to continue attending.
Well, I just like that idea, and I know these are upper crust on the grade level. What about the other children? I know Jim used to do in the high school that they had to maintain a certain grade level to participate in sports. Are we still doing that?
Oh, with our eligibility?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
Yep, by school.
What encourages the student to, if they want something, they,
Absolutely.
good. So we're doing that still.
We are.
Perfect. Thank you. And thank you for bringing the numbers up. I'd like to
Absolutely.
see those numbers go way up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Adrian, I really appreciate what you're doing with our students. The encouragement you're giving to our students. You're setting that bar up high, the standard, and I really appreciate that. I like what's happening with our sports teams, and I just love to see all these smiling faces here tonight also. So thank you.
Thank you.
Great presentation.
Thank you.
He's not used to those winning numbers when he was in school.
We had some winning.
He had some good numbers
My
back
day,
then.
Chuck, we had some winning teams. A long time ago.
So Adrian knows I'm going to always have a comment. So a comment, and then a question. So first of all, I agree. Kudos. Sometimes when people, and we've had some recent examples of this, see individual athlete behaviors, it goes straight to that athlete. They're horrible, get rid of them, whatever. I'm not saying that's always a bad choice. However, I truly believe athletes, just like any of us, our behaviors come from the environment that we're in. Our home environment, our athletic environment, the coaching environment, et cetera. And so just really kudos for creating doing your best to create a positive, supportive environment for athletes, because over time, if that continues to go well, we'll see continued great choices, right? So it's like a both and, so really kudos. So that's the comment. But question, I know the boys soccer team has struggled with getting enough participation, so I have kind of two questions. One is, are we seeing that struggle with any of the other fall sports, or did we this year? And I know there's been a number of things tried. I wish they did soccer at the middle school to help support that, but I'm just curious about the status there.
Yeah, we had a couple of really good plans and ideas, and I think that number one, having and not that our previous coach did a poor job by any means, but we have a Creek grad in, and he is solely focused on building the boys program. So it's really exciting to see his passion. I think it's exciting to see the boys following that passion, and that increased interest, I think, is going to be coming. We've also, because we're not renting out the cage every single weekend, is allowed some opportunities for us to create some winter soccer opportunities. So we run what we call a little futsal league. So it's a heavier bladder ball. It doesn't fly all over the place. It's a little bit more controlled, but it really focuses on touches and technique and stuff like that. So we're going to continue with that program and try and gauge some more interest. My biggest pipe dream would be that we could actually have a middle school soccer program and keep that going. I don't know that the Metro League is there yet, but I think a lot of us see the need as well. Yeah.
Anybody else? Go ahead, Jessica.
Yes. Number one, thank you, and thanks for doing a great job. I'm sorry if I missed, did you say what book study? What's the book?
We are doing Elevate Your Game is what the book was. So at our leadership conference, we brought in the Positive Coaches Alliance, and through that, and that's a national organization. So we had a guest speaker who actually drove up from Fort Wayne, Indiana, and had 38 years of athletic experience, and he was a dynamo to talk to our athletes. So it was really exciting having him there. And then from that, the PCA has 3 different kind of programs, and then they have this book that they offered us. So we paid $6 a book. And it was just, a great investment. We got a coach's guide that goes along with it. and then the PCA support as well. They're on their way to their football banquet.
Hey, thanks, guys, for doing a great job.
And then the bracelets, were they considered an award? Like, do the coaches award those? Do only you award those? Or is that what it's meant for? Do all players this year, this season get it as the focus? I'm sorry that I missed that when you were talking about.
Nope.
When you,
Jessica, hold on, I'm sorry to interrupt. Ladies, could you stay for just a few minutes, or do you have to go?
We're also going to football banquet.
Okay, all right, we were going to have a
Thanks for
picture
being awesome.
taken. That's okay.
Can you just wait a second? The food will get cold, don't worry about it, you'll be good.
No, you're fine. You're fine. The team bracelets. So our focus was really to highlight athletes that are going above and beyond, or putting the team above themselves, kind of mentality. The coaches I gave those to coaches. Coaches were going to recognize those when they can see those. Anytime that I saw, student athletes going above and beyond, then I also would kind of jump in and do that as well. So finding those opportunities, or even the conversation that we had this winter with my winter coaches, was creating those opportunities. So, even if it's conversations that we have about being a great teammate, or conversations that we have about what sportsmanship looks like, or how do we create those types of environments that we are really demonstrating that we're putting somebody else in front of us as a teammate. So we've done a lot of those conversations as far as the coaching staff goes too.
Awesome. And two last things. To the student athletes, because I know that quite a few of you not only have the academics and the sports, you're working, you have other stuff going on. Nice job rocking it out, really, because I know it's not easy. And I'm going to give a special shout out, because they're near and dear to me, to the girls' swim team, because I know how difficult it can be. It's awesome to be on a team, but sometimes it can be very aggravating to be on a team. And to successful, and watching those relationships grow, not just on the girls' swim team, but throughout all the sports, is really wonderful. So thanks a lot for doing a great job and representing Swartz Creek really well. And back to the shout out there. Congratulations on breaking the record twice in 1 year. And to you, Coach T, thank you so much for showing up at the events.
Yeah.
I heard I didn't see you, but I heard that you were out at Metro's in Fenton this weekend.
I was there on Saturday.
It's really cool. So
Yeah.
thanks a lot for being around all the sports in the
Absolutely.
district. That's all.
Thanks, Adrienne, and we appreciate all that you do, and thanks for bringing these fine students here with
Absolutely.
you today, okay? Students, if you could just take 2 minutes, we promise we'll make this fast. Why don't we get right here in front?
That's fine.
And Travis, if you want to take a 5-minute break, I'll pause the video, then we'll just get the pictures really quick, and then you guys can fly, okay?
In a second,
All right. Thank you very much. Thanks to our athletes and their parents, and congratulations to all involved. Let's move on. We have the first reading of our July 2022 policy updates.
Yes, as Jack stated, we have the July 22 packet, which is huge. We have spent the last 2 months going through recommendations. Just a reminder, if it's in blue, it's a recommendation. If it's in red, it's a mandatory. If it's crossed out, it's coming out of the policy. It's just there for your read. You'll have it for the next month. As always, when we come back to the second read, we will bring the committee's recommendations for each one of the areas that does involve a choice. And I can get that to you when the packets go out next time so that you can review it before the second read in case you have questions. We currently, as Jack said, aren't even through the packet, but we thought it would be good to start the first read so that you can take a look because it's pretty thick.
Okay, any questions for Rod or Jack? I know, Jack, you said we haven't received the November packet yet.
Not yet, we have not.
Yeah. Okay, any
But we
questions?
are expecting.
With anticipation,
Yeah.
yes. All right, if there are no questions, we can move on to our board action items, beginning with the sale and purchase of buses.
So you have before you a memo from Mrs. Gray on the bus sale and purchase. We did change the language as recommended at our last committee meeting to say up to 3 buses, which is at $376,826. If we go to 3, as Chuck mentioned, the buses vary a little bit in price. One of those is because one of the buses has the understorage. Right now, we only have 1 bus that has that, so if we're doing an athletic event that requires 2, like football and cheerleaders or whatnot, only 1 group, band, right, yeah, only 1 group gets to put their equipment underneath. So this bus will allow us to have 2 buses to do that, and we can get everybody situated, get their equipment underneath, get the kids on the bus. It's up to you for your approval this evening.
So moved.
I make a motion. Oh,
Okay, so Alyssa and Chuck,
I think, go ahead.
any comments or questions? Go ahead, Chuck.
Yeah.
Well, I guess my comment is, if we are gonna put them up on the auction site, I guess I would tend to agree with Chuck that maybe we should raise that price up a little bit. Just for that, I mean, I don't see any flaw in it, as, like Chuck said, 30 days from now, say they don't sell, well, we can lower the price, but I don't think it would hurt to list them at that higher price first.
And in the motion, Carrie, does it say 3 buses? It says up to 3, or
It
does it say
says,
3?
it says up to,
2, but up to 3.
but I'm looking to make sure we don't have to have a reference, yeah, it's as presented. There's not a reference to the $4,500, is there in the resolution? There is.
Just in the original.
Yeah, in the
memo.
original memo, there is, but I don't think,
So we okay to do that, Carrie, then?
Right.
6,500
Right.
and then up to 3 buses?
right, so the recommendation to the administrators would be $6,500. The resolution has to reflect how many, up to 3 buses, which we've indicated here. So with that, are you
Wait,
still
I have
okay?
one more question.
Go ahead, Jack.
So this MSBO bus purchase program, I was reading the memo, and it says that there's a fully paid membership for that. What's the cost for the membership of this program?
I will have to find that one out.
I don't recall that answer when RC presented at the building meeting. I don't know if Jessica or Brian do. I don't remember.
I don't know, because we participate in it. The MSBO is not just the bus purchasing program.
I don't think it
correct?
costs us
That's
anything, but I
a
don't
whole
remember.
Michigan
Do we already
State
participate in
budget-
it?
We already do.
Budgeting office, yeah.
We already do.
do?
It's what gives us, as a district pricing.
Okay,
So we are a part of MSBO as well as this is the program we have always been involved in. So
okay.
I can see if there's a breakdown for being in the particular program.
If we're already in it, I'm not as worried about it.
It's how we, if I may, because we were talking about this a little, we are a member in this, and this is how we order buses every year, because they only open bus ordering for 1 month.
Okay.
Like, we get this information, they give us this analysis in November. We have like the month of December to actually put in the purchase of the bus. It takes them 6 months to make the bus. They deliver it in July because it is the new fiscal year for us. So we sell the bus in this current school year and purchase the buses next year. It's not that we can, well, we could, maybe not. I'm not quite certain how that was answered. That you can't really order a bus just any old time, and/or if you do, you're not going to get the pricing that you do being a district in the state, like you do currently right now. This is best pricing basically for us for a bus.
Gotcha. And thank you.
Yep.
Which is another reason why it's so important to keep track of the buses and where they are in their life, right?
Yes.
So that we can plan ahead from a budget standpoint.
Because, and this is what we talked about, like, there are 2 that we're getting rid of this year, and we're talking about ordering 3, because technically next year, we have to get rid of based on mileage and everything.
Yeah, I
6
was looking at the
buses.
mileage.
6 buses next year, and 6 buses the year following that, and then 2 more. So technically, over 4 years' time, we're gonna need 16 new buses,
Yeah.
of which 14 of them in 3 years. And it makes it really tight, depending on what happens with our district, whether or not we're going to have enough buses. You know, if we have a bus breakdown here or there, are we going to have enough buses to actually support our transportation department and its needs for
Gotcha.
that school year?
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, with that motion, I,
We reread the motion, Carrie,
sure.
please.
Be it resolved that the Swartz Creek Community Schools Board of Education approves the bus sale purchase as presented. And as we discussed, Chuck, that would mean that the administrators can sell it for the $6,500 we're recommending, but the proposal is for up to 3 buses.
I'm good with that. That's
Yep.
all I want to make sure.
Okay.
And we'll let Chris and Rod and everybody figure out our finances along with us and see if we can't squeeze 3 this year. Perfect.
Right,
As
right.
discussion. Thank you.
If there are no other comments or questions, I'm going to ask Sue to do roll call, please.
Carrie Germain,
Yes.
Alyssa Parks,
Yes.
Chuck Melkey.
Yes.
Alyssa Bouchard,
Yes.
Jack Sayer,
Yes.
Brian Sapanic,
Yes.
Jessica LaNave.
Yes.
7 yes.
7 yeses, motion passes. Thank you very much. All right, next we have the approval of non-union early childhood coordinator.
Yes, I am excited to have May Bendel come up to the mic as I talk about her for a little bit. This is an interesting situation. We have been talking about expanding all sorts of things. One, we talked about expanding GSRP. We asked for more slots this year. We have expanded early and after school and daycare or childcare before and after school up to almost 100 kids, over 100 kids. We have a lot of support for expanding just early childhood opportunities in general. May does all of the program coordination, and May was in the support staff unit. So as Michelle Dexter, our HR executive director, and I were looking and analyzing where people belong and what they do, this is probably one of the biggest situations that stuck out to us, which is a secretary doesn't really run a program. A director does, or a coordinator does, or however you want to frame that. So we have put together a new program, posted it. This is the Early Childhood Program Coordinator, doing coordinating position. And of course, we have May here with us to be presented for that job. You want to tell us a little bit about yourself and how long you've been
Yeah,
working for us and what you've been doing lately?
I can talk about myself. Okay. So I started in 2000, well, my name is Amanda Bendel, but I go by May. It just, there was a center I worked at, and there were 4 Amandas, and Miss May stuck, and that's my middle name, so it works out. If you want to email me, it's A. Bendel, though, not M. Bendel, just in case. 2014, I started at Mary Crapo. The whole time I thought it was haunted, and come to find out they were chimney birds. So I would go in. I've done all sorts. I've done actually every job duty there is in early childhood development. Started as a caregiver in the infant room when there was a caregiver position in the union. Educational aid. From there, I was in GSRP. Then I jumped, we did the move to the new building at Little Dragons. I was hired in as the GSRP preschool coordinator, so I did the recruitment, the enrollment, the family engagement. From there, I was given the new position of Little Dragons Learning Center lead, which is, essentially the lead secretary. With that and the growth of enrollment and the need for before and after care, the gains, added location, the job duties have increased tremendously. And that was gradual, of course. I oversee the license at Gaines, Cyrene, Moorish, and Little Dragons. I oversee 25 GSRP instructors, 6 educational aides at both, or actually there's more now because of Gaines. So 8 educational aides at the licensed locations, and secretary. So that's currently what I do, and I try to visit as often as I can, and I delegate, and it's been a pretty successful program. So, please.
How long have you been, I would say, quasi in charge, May?
2018, after Dave Smansik left.
Okay. And yeah, that was an administrative position.
Yes.
When you were in a position like that, isn't there certain qualifications they have to have or educational level? I'm just, are we going towards that, or, the
Yep.
state guidelines?
Yep.
Okay.
So,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
well, that is kind of the reason why the level was dropped down to an LDLC lead secretary role. I'm currently enrolled in school to obtain a bachelor's in early childhood education, so.
So this all fell on you, which I didn't realize that. I maybe it's before I came in on the board here that Szymanski was doing that, and then.
No, you heard this list.
I did?
Yeah, February 16th, I remember.
Yeah. And you have, and this was Michelle's suggestion, our human resource director?
Yeah, Michelle and I talked about it wasn't appropriate or right-sized. This is just a right-sizing and appropriate title.
Yeah, I just don't want to get in trouble with the state if we give a title and they say that the title needs to have X, A, or B credentials. If
Right.
Michelle thinks that's okay.
Yes.
As a board member personally, I'm okay with it because she's been doing the job.
She's gone through the testing and whatnot.
Oh, good.
She's adding
Yes.
a degree on top of that.
All right, okay. And she's responsible for 31 employees, which I feel like we've cheated you then for the last 4 or 5 years if you've been doing that and not having that job title. And,
Kevin Claren has assisted me
Oh,
with
okay.
that.
All
Yeah,
right.
so
Okay.
I'm sorry. So
Okay.
he was my administrator that I would go to for things that I was not able to do on
Got
my
it.
own. So I've had his help when needed.
good.
Yeah.
And how many children do we have there? It's full, right?
So it depends. What program are you looking?
Or just in the Little Dragons building physically, in that
We
building?
are
when you're doing-
92 out of 104,
Okay,
and we have until February to fill.
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I hope you accept the job. Thank you. That's all I had, May.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions for Amanda May? I would like to say, number one, thank you for doing a wonderful job.
And yeah, I think you have a wonderful presence, and it makes me really excited for you to be with our little ones.
Thanks.
And Chuck just asked about Little Dragons, but I'll give you the opportunity. Will you tell us the numbers for all the programs that you're doing? And will you talk about the expectation that you might have for growth, or maybe your ideas about what we may change or consider, or even what you see future trend-wise? I guess in part what I'm hinting at with that a little bit is, I know that we offered a lot of spaces, or were granted spaces out at Gaines, and that we didn't have the participation that we thought we would, but I'd really like to know your thoughts about the other programs as well.
So we have, I think it's about 142 children enrolled total for before and after care. For Gaines location, we have 12 out of the 32 expansion slots that we asked for filled. The 12 is actually what we were shooting for. I don't know if you remember at one of the board meetings discussing how we would even out. We hit that number. So we did hit 12. Little Dragons usually successfully fills right away. This year, actually, we had a director's meeting this morning, and we discussed that enrollment is low countywide for GSRP. So we broke up into groups and discussed the types of recruitment that we can do and getting out there. So we are working on that right now. But I definitely feel that we would fill to 104 for Little Dragons, and we still have some trickling in at the Gaines location. Goals, yeah, I have a lot, and what I would like to see. I'd like to know the need of tuition paid preschool, and I want to get a survey out there to the community to see how many families would be interested in a tuition-paid program, and then try to make sure that it matches the high-quality preschool programming that we give for the GSRP students. So that's what I'm working on right now. Yeah. Thank you. You're welcome.
Was there an income requirement change for GSRP? I think we talked about that at one of our meetings, and we weren't sure what that was.
There was not, but there is leniency. There is 15% we can take over income children, but they have to have a risk factor. And we were just told today that we can start calling those other over income families because we have some space for the county for
The
their
reason
15%.
I'm asking is because there might be families listening who may not think that they qualify and might be interested if they have that information.
Yep, that's the information that we want to give out, is a lot of families don't fill out an interest form because they feel like they already won't qualify. Majority of those families, we find a way to get into the program correctly, of course. And but they definitely need to reach out to us and give us a call. We can assist them. And if we can't get them in, we will help find them a program in the community.
As May said, the GSRP across the county is short. The superintendents have sent out an email request of helping each other fill, and if you can fill, then help your neighbors fill. As you know, our birth rates continue to drop, and we've been talking about declining enrollment forever. It just continues to create situations like this so that we're not filled. I think there's, one district that's full, two?
Yeah, there's not too many.
Out of the entire county. So.
They did, though. They were discussing like barriers, different things that's happening, COVID being one of them. There's a staff shortage everywhere. We do not have that issue. We are full and we don't have turnover. Thank you. It's culture.
A reflection of a good leader. So before I ask for a motion, I want to thank you because you do an amazing job there. And you can just tell when you walk in the building, the kids love you, the staff respects you. And I think this is probably long overdue, but thank you from all of us. With that, I would entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Brian?
Support.
Chuck? Any comments or questions? Hearing none, be it resolved that the Swartz Creek Community Schools Board of Education approves May Bendel as the non-union early childhood coordinator of the Little Dragons Learning Center as presented. Sue, could you do roll call, please?
Jack Sayer,
Yes.
Alyssa Bouchard,
100% yes.
Carrie Germain,
Yes.
Brian Sapanic,
Yes.
Chuck Melkey,
Yes.
Jessica LaNave,
Yes.
Alyssa Parks.
Yes.
7 yes.
7 yeses, motion passes.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Come on over here, Maria.
Shake our hands up here,
Get your juice. Get your juice. Your juice. Your sanitizer. What's that from you? Juice. Get the juice out. COVID's still around.
All right, moving on, we have an opportunity for public comment again. For anyone who would like to address the board, please step forward to the podium, state your name, and keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. I won't call anybody out in the audience who might be sitting there. I don't think we have anybody.
No backing out now.
All right. Finally, comments and questions from the board. This has been a great meeting, a lot of things to celebrate and share. Anybody?
I just wanted to put a date reminder out there. I forgot. We moved the Finance Committee from the normal Monday to Tuesday. I'm at a Lead Well Summit through K-12 Alliance. So K-12 Alliance is something that the Genesee County Superintendent's Association belongs to. And it's a big advocacy group for public education. And the Lead Well Summit is being hosted in Oakland County for student mental wellness and health. So they have asked every superintendent that can register to bring a team of 5. So I will be at the Lead Well Summit that Monday. That's why we've moved the date.
And it's moved to Tuesday, the 22nd?
Just the next day, yep.
correct? From same time, 2 to 4?
Yeah, so
All
we'll
right.
have 4 meetings
Great.
that day.
Okay, you get to eat turkey later that week, Rod, so that's good. All right, anyone else? Comments or
Bond committee.
questions?
Bond committee. I have several things I'd like to say on that. We had a bond committee meeting today. I could have put it on the building report, but the projects that were cut during the bond committee were the Deke parking lot, the Cage parking lot, part of the 400 wall athletic wing, and some of the elementary playgrounds. Not some, all of them, but RC's managed to get 2 of them up to snuff. So we're anticipating we're going to have about $800,000 left once we pay all the bills out of the bond. And these projects are a lot more than that, to the tune of probably about, yeah, I'm going to say $2 to $3 million. We'll leave it open. Because some of the playgrounds have already been done. You know, the Elms Road was a model. He did that. He's got Morse pretty much in shape. And we still have Deke and Cyrene to do, and Rod thinks Cyrene's in okay shape, just might need as much of an overhaul. But the more impressing thing is that the board needs to get together in strategic planning and figure out, as a board as a whole, how we're going to figure out to finish all of these projects were cut. And I just came on the bond steering committee a few months ago. What we're going to do to try to relieve some of this and figure out what's the most important project or what we need to do right away. So I just wanted everybody to be aware of that. Jessica had a ton of good questions on there today. We discussed it for length. And those were the 4 things that are on there. And then the other project needs are the Mary Crapo Ball Field / Walking Path Community Center, outdoor community center. The roofs, we're having issues with the roofs still, and tennis courts. So I just wanted to let everybody know about that, and it has to be addressed, and we got to figure out something about it. And instead of just 1 or 2 of us in there, I think it needs to be maybe talked about at strategic planning, because there's a lot of money involved, and what takes priority, what doesn't take priority, and how do we move into it and try to alleviate some of these problems. And Jessica will have some things to add on that, on the bond committee. I know, she doesn't. She has a lot of
What?
thoughts
Yes,
on
I
it.
do.
But we would be out of here by 9. So just to let everybody know, that's where we're at on it. So, and there'll be a little bit of money left, but there's not enough to cover some of these projects. As they went through, they were flexible and saw some things that they needed done. And they fixed those as they needed that they saw in keeping the spirit of the agreement with the public and the original bond steering committee. So, I'll probably have
Really-
something else to add, but.
Really quick question, sorry, because we don't have to go to, just, when is the millage up for renewal or for vote for renewal? Do we know that?
2030, I believe? No.
The sinking fund is
Yeah, there's-
2030.
No, the bond, if we wanted to renew it,
So the rates have been dropping. I've met with multiple finance companies, meaning with RJ Soon, who is the current company we used at the original bond. And it just depends on what you want out of it. The goal would obviously be a zero increase no matter what. You could run that technically in '23, but as I explained at the bond committee, we're short on time to try to put that together.
Yeah.
Plus, you would get less money.
okay, so there's not like a required, like it would have to be this time, but it
It
could be.
would just have to be
23.
before the money went back to the public, because at that point, while it would be the same overall tax, you would actually have to ask for it back. So if you do it while it hasn't, before it's been given back, then it's just a zero increase. And of course, if it was, not voted upon, it would eventually go back to them. A zero increase in the state of Michigan usually passes 90% of the time. So just rough numbers, like 23 would be about 17 million, 24 was somewhere around 25 million, and 25 was closer to 30 million. But those all change with the economy, with interest rates, with all of that. But you're looking somewhere between 15 and 30 million. It looked like if you waited a little bit, that was the better number to get a bang for your buck. So we will have an update on that as we move into the new year. Just as one of the things that Jessica, I don't know if she's going to bring this up, but she was talking about, one of the biggest needs is the Deke parking lot, so should we get an RFP for that? As I explained to the group, we're going to have to pick one. You can't do all of these things. You can do one thing. Unless you did some of the small things. If you did the playgrounds and the 400 wing, you could probably tackle that and then maybe put some money towards something else like one roof or the Mary Crapel project. If you did one of the parking lots, though, it would be the entire 800,000 plus probably 200,000 into the sinking fund, which we have the money to do that. We just want to know, as we move forward, we need to spend this. And these are some of the things that we've been dealing with over the last year or so.
The Deke parking lot was the most important because it's a traffic issue over there. And I think that, but like Rod said, there's a lot of money there, and we don't know exactly how much we're going to have left, but hopefully we'll pay for the majority of it and then at least get the RFP started. Go ahead, Jessica.
So just to clarify, is something that was said, as I understand it, for this, the money that was not used, non-committed funds right now for the bond, they could not be used for Mary Crapel's ball field, they couldn't be used for the roofs, they couldn't be used for the tennis courts. Those would have to be either from the zero increase bond, if we put it in there at some point, or potentially from sinking fund dollars, but they could not be, just a point of clarification when we're talking about what these other projects. Correct?
They cannot be used for maintenance. So you could not use things like painting,
Striping.
upgrades, that kind of thing. If a project fell within the scope of the bond, remember, the bond did not lay out all the RFPs. We created the RFPs based on the bond language. The bond language didn't have, the RFP for, Elms Road office or Elms Road STEM lab or whatnot. So if you had something like athletics, which was in the bond, and it fit what was in the bond, that's fine. If you had parking lots or, we did roofs with the bond. So again, we had a big thing on safety and security, and that's where a lot of the parking and the office spaces came from. We had a big thing on education, that's where all the STEAM centers came from. And we had a big athletic complex. So you can spend the money if you think it authentically fits the language of the bond. What you can't do is any maintenance or upgrades.
So that eliminates roofs, parking, like resurfacing parking lots, that type of thing, replacing a window or something like that. That would be more maintenance, which would have to come out of sinking funds.
Right, because we talked about if we resurfaced Deke, or just seal coated it, that would have to come out of general fund dollars. That can't
Right.
even come out of sinking fund dollars. And that's estimated to be roughly around
Six-
$30,000.
50 to 60,000 just to do that.
And then, but to completely redo the Deke parking lot, and it's believed that that would need to be done at one point. Right now, it's a sheer guess, who knows? And because we made some modifications to what we thought we wanted to happen with that parking lot. What we were talking about today, and my thing is trying to figure out, because we have these uncommitted funds from the bond. There is some money in the sinking fund that could be used, and then in combination, what could we maybe get done together, or how much could we get done if we get a pricing for, my thought is to try to get pricing for what it would cost to do the Deke parking lot. The concern though is if we go out for an RFP now and people spend time on it because of the time of year, that bid is only gonna be good for 60 days. We're not even gonna get it, possibly, or they'll even, 30 to 60 days is as long as it's gonna be good for. And my thing is how do we then, how much time do we need? I think it's important to get that number, but as well to try to get an idea of what it would cost to do the 400 hall and to do the elementary playgrounds, and see if and/or what kind of combination there in between those can we do. The cage parking lot, we anticipate, because again, there's going to be quite a bit of work that needs to be done. There's the substantial storm work that'll need to be done, and I've got down here that we need the base, the storm work, and repaving all needed. And given the size of that, it's going to be crazy.
So as we've dealt
anyway.
with the undercuts on all the parking lots that we did do, the architects have told us that absolutely every parking lot in our district was not poured right originally. There is no base on any of them, which is why you're seeing some of the deterioration. So Jessica's idea to, do an RFP, you could then vote on it, that price would be good, and they'd have to start whenever you start in the spring. Or you could use it just as a number. I think one of the other points just that we talked about, the rest of the board is aware of, is Deke is the only project listed right here that is ready to go right now. We could build the RFP right now because we have the exact plans ready to go. Because that was one of the very later things that was taken out, where some of these things didn't even get, like the cage parking lot isn't even drawn, right?
That, and then just really quick, for the 400 wing, there were plans for that. There would probably be some modifications to that. I'm not certain how much. But that has, at least, I guess I want to say partial plans, but to Rod's point, Deke is ready to go. And then for the playgrounds, RC had said that Elms is primarily all done. Moorish only needs a few things, and it would be a quote, because the last quote that got for Cyrene was back in April of 2022. So it's really hard to say for us to figure out right now if that quote that he got for Cyrene, how accurate it is 6 months later, So that's why I would really like to get some updated numbers. I think that's the best way for us to move forward.
It just seems like logistically and strategically, there's some information we have to know, and there's some development or design things that we have to, if we're going to start prioritizing and then it involves money or timing in the future, and then what can be spent where.
When's our next strategic planning?
We don't have another
We don't have
strategic
one?
planning, no. We'd have to schedule.
There is
Do we have a board workshop on it, Rod?
We have a board workshop planned for February. That's mainly to bring on all the new board members, so it's not really a construction one. We could hold one, or I can just gather all this information, put it in a chart as far as expenses, timing, what we have drawings of, what we don't have drawings of. We meet in 3 weeks, and I can have that all ready to go.
What can be spent on what, right? Where there's restrictions.
I just thought that, and me and Jessica were kind of just hashing it over here, is that we wanted all the board's input because it's a big thing to say, we decided to do the Deke parking lot without everybody like nuts and bolts talking about it because it's such a large sum of money and it may be more than what we've got left over. And we don't know if we're going to have that 800 or 900 grand left over. That's just what we're estimating right now with Chris, who's been pretty accurate on the board. But I just want to get input instead of me and maybe a couple board members. I mean, I know you guys trust us to bring this back, but it's such a big issue that I don't feel comfortable saying, hey, let's do this without, because remember, I was never on the bond steering committee except for the last couple months. And although I watch the dollars, who said that? Adrian, she says, I'm always watching numbers. Yeah, she's got my ticket, but you know, I'm watching numbers. So we have so many projects that we need to get it completed that we need everybody's input to say, let's do this one, this two, this three, and hold off on this one. It's not a high priority till we can figure out where we can find some more money. And you know me, I don't like taxing the taxpayers. We got to figure out, you know, to creatively figure out how we can do this and be efficient. So I don't know, what's the suggestion you have, Carrie or Rod? Do we have a special?
I think a good first step is to have Rod collect all that information that we do know, and there might be some question marks in there, right?
Yeah.
That we have to get in areas where you can't go forward unless you have a design.
Yeah.
Or you have an idea, and then you start talking about prioritization and a future possible zero increase bond. You know, what would go into that, and that's maybe a few years out. But I think that would make sense, and then maybe we can bring together the group. I don't know if we want to spend time at a board meeting to do it, but maybe bring together a group to look at it and to kind of like whiteboard it to say, you know, does this make sense? And here's what the future looks like.
That, or we could have more members show up at the building committee meeting, one meeting, just have it.
Yeah.
I mean, because it's open to everyone, so
Right.
maybe we say, we're going to discuss this item agenda at this building
That
committee.
would work too.
And then everybody's just going to have to make time, the people that want to, and say,
Right.
hey, listen, we're got to go to this meeting. You know, I
Okay,
know- Yeah.
that's a good suggestion.
I think that would just be better, and that way we can hash it out there. And then if we do an RFP, I don't want to waste the money because like we said, they're not going to pour asphalt now, but I do want to get it done. But,
Right.
you know, I don't want to just throw or restripe it and waste 50 grand that we can spend somewhere else. So,
Right.
yeah, well, maybe we'll just do that. Is that
Okay.
okay? Is that kind of a consensus of the
Start
board?
thinking about it and start looking at what we
Yeah.
can
And
do.
the next
and-
one or two building
Yep.
committee meetings, is that okay with you, Jessica? Does that sound
Okay.
fair?
Okay, great.
Good.
Anybody else? Questions, comments? Okay, great. Any other comments or questions from the board?
I had one more.
Sure, go ahead.
The books, I know I brought that up last month, but Jim and me talked about the books, just off, you know, the cuff. I had some people complain about books, but I don't know what's going on with the books. Honestly, I don't know. But he did say, and it's for the public's knowledge, and maybe Michelle Corbett can put it out on her social media, that if there's any problems with the book, my understanding is that there's a policy in our already policies and procedures. And Jim, would you explain it about how they go to the principal first, and then go to the deputy superintendent, and then?
Sure, absolutely. And we are blessed. We have put thousands of dollars in books and just hundreds and hundreds of books into all of our classrooms. In Swartz Creek, we use literature to teach lit skills. And the high school, I'm proud of them. The ELA department got together. They wrote this beautiful letter to just reinforce to families. We have lots of literature, but you have choice, and choice is the biggest characteristic of whether a student's going to be successful with reading. We provide lots of choice. There is a process if you come across a book that you disagree with. Obviously, one person should never dictate what is appropriate and inappropriate, which is why we have our board policy, and it starts with taking your complaint to the principal and works from there. But we absolutely have the opportunity this year to engage our students with thousands of books within our district, and we're proud of that.
And if there's a complaint with a book that's, somebody deems it inappropriate, just I'm thinking out loud, they can go to the principal. If they don't get any satisfaction from there, the policy says they go to the, not try to make more work for you, deputy
Yes.
superintendent?
Definitely, and I would want to find the exact, but yes, it would come to me, and then I believe ultimately it comes to the board if there's no resolve there. But
Yeah, there's 3 steps. We just actually, in our last
Yeah, I thought,
packet,
we talked about that, yeah.
we approved that new policy. So that's one of the items that has been discussed at policy and was approved by you, the board, the last time we approved our last set of policy. Just for the record, all of our books are age appropriate, so we have not had anyone come to our principals or call Jim or I about anything in particular. I know that's kind of a thing that's just out there across the nation, but
Right.
we work very hard to make sure our K-5 libraries are appropriate to K-5, and obviously our 612 are appropriate to 612, but the process is an actual board policy now.
All right, thank you. Anyone
And
else?
I got one more thing.
Go ahead.
Third thing is the reading for the third graders. Rod, would you kind of try, I know it's getting towards the holidays, but we kind of let it slide. I think Mr. Dave was doing it from Elms Road.
Dave was doing, taking a group of kids over to read with the animals. We're going to reach out to Dave, as well as his partner school over at Deke, because they're also a 3-5 building, and they might as well share the wealth and the opportunity, so.
I would just like to see it increased or at least kept on track. We haven't done it much, I know, with all the heartaches going on with the COVID, but I want to see them kids reading. I want to see them, we're talking about literature, and it's a benefit to the high school student that mentors them. It's a benefit to the child, more importantly, benefit to kindness to animals and doing community service. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Chuck. Anyone else? All right, our next meeting is at the end of this month. And then we have a meeting for Rod's evaluation in December. So there's not a regular board meeting in December. Just wanted to, the 30th. So just a reminder, it's a little bit different than normal. We have 2 board meetings this month. If there are no other comments or questions, I would entertain a motion for dismissal. Anybody? Jack? Okay, Chuck. With that, anybody opposed? We are